Hi, welcome back to the garden, and today I'm outside looking specifically for flowers to cut and hang to dry. Our entire yard is 1/3 of an acre and I have 3 main growing spaces. You can see the upper garden behind me. On the other side of the camera is the lower garden with the greenhouse, and I have about half of my front yard converted to gardens so far also. And we're going to hit all 3 of those areas today, starting with the upper garden. Now this mess here, it's fallen over a couple of times. I only have about half a dozen plants here, and I'm only using this for dried flowers, so I don't need to have long straight stems. And I'm only cutting a good amount of stem just to have something to hang it from. So what I'm looking for are the flowers that are still fairly closed or only just starting to show yellow in the middle. I've found that if the centers are open too much, they just turn brown when they dry. So I'm just looking for the ones that have only started to open or are still closed and not showing any yellow at all. These basically look like very tiny white straw flowers, and they feel very similar too. So for my dried flower collection, I'm pretty much just going through once a week and cutting anything I can find, deadheading anything that is not good. At the same time, like these are completely brown. I could save them for seed though. Maybe I'll do that. Now that is a good start, and I need to do some deadheading, but there's some flowers that are so far gone I think I may get seed soon. So I'm gonna leave that for now, and let's go find the straw flowers next. Now I don't need a long stem for these either, but I cut them pretty low on the plants because I want the plants to branch from the bottom rather than the top. If the plants are too top heavy, then they're a lot more likely to snap when we get heavy wind or rain. So I just have a few plants here, but I have more in the front yard also. This front yard space has been way more productive than it was last year, which is good because I put the majority of my straw flowers right here, and I just put a few in the back as a backup. This garden did not do well last year. It was brand new and the soil just wasn't really cooperating. But luckily this year it's done a lot better. So with these straw flowers, I tend to cut them when they're not fully open. So here's a good example of one. There's just a couple of rows of petals that are open, but it's still closed in the center. Same thing, these light pink ones are only just starting to open, and a few more petals will open as they dry, but they should stay closed at the center, and I prefer that look much better. So that is a pretty good straw flower harvest for today, and I'm getting that about once a week from, I don't know, maybe 2 dozen plants or so. So that's pretty good. So I'll show you a few more things that I have for cutting in here that just aren't quite ready yet. So we're not going to get it today, but within a week or 2, it should all be ready to cut. So this is a little patch of celosia. I think this was a mix. I can't remember exactly the variety, but there's a really nice bright red and some bright yellow and orange back there. I have been cutting this for bouquets a little bit, but I'm gonna let it all go for dried now. And I think I have, yeah, that is a flamingo feather. There's quite a bit of status in here, but I've been using most of these in fresh bouquets, and I did cut a whole bunch of it this morning, and that's already indoors. So we'll have a look at that shortly, but a lot of this is going into fresh bouquets. So what you see here are the ones that haven't quite opened yet. Almost forgot about this craspedia, and I haven't actually cut any yet because I wasn't quite sure of the stage at which to cut it, but I think we're going to take these anyway. Some of them look like the flowers have actually opened a little bit, and this one is a little bit tighter. I suspect that is a better stage for harvesting. But let's also take this one that hasn't really opened yet at all. There is a little bit of eryngium in here that I've left for the bees. I already cut a gigantic amount that is already hanging to dry, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Next to get is cress, and that might be a big job. This poor cress got absolutely pummeled by the rain, and I tried to fix it, but it would have caused a lot more harm than good. I think would have snapped them off completely if I had tried to stand these up. Luckily though, the snapped stems didn't really seem to kill the plant because all the side shoots started growing up. So not so good for use in fresh bouquets, although it's absolutely gorgeous. But I'm hoping it'll still give me some usable dried foliage. I'm just going to get these stems stripped off of the straw flowers and get everything bunched together, and then I'm going to show you everything else that I've been drying throughout the season. So stripping the stems is not necessary, it just makes it easier to hang. There's less bulk, less stuff. So once these are dry, I'm likely just going to be cutting the flower heads off anyway, and then the rest of this is going to go in the compost. There we go. Now if this was a really hot day, I could be doing this inside, but the sun comes and goes, there's a little bit of a breeze, it's not really all that bad. And it's easier to just do this outside where I already have my wheelbarrow here for compost. So we've got a mountain of cress, we have straw flowers, we have this amobium, got quite a bit of this amobium. And there are a ton of other things that I've been cutting throughout the season. Mostly just a couple little handfuls here and there, but the shelf is really starting to fill up. So we're gonna head inside next and have a look at what's already dried downstairs. So we haven't been down here in a while. Let me put this down. So this is a semi-finished room in the basement. It's where I start all my seeds. It's where I store all my garden related things that I'm not using at the moment. Put the cress down there for now and my basket. Right next to that I have all of my garlic. Now that has been drying outside. I just brought it in yesterday before we had some rain. So I need to get those out of the crates as well. We have all the daffodil bulbs that I dug up because they need to be moved. I just don't have the space ready for them yet. And what's this? Oh, more daffodil bulbs and some more random plant trays and things. You can tell by the floor that this is not a finished room. But here is my drying shelf. So this is the same shelf that housed all of my seedlings in the spring. I took the lights off of them. They're on the table next to me. And right now it is where I'm hanging everything to dry. Let's have a look and see what is up here first, starting with the larkspur. I've never dried larkspur before, but I really love how this dried. These unopened buds and even the open flowers look pretty nice. So we have some of that QIS dark blue. This was giant imperial white. This one I think was carmine. We have a little bit of yarrow. There are little bits of feverfew sprinkled around. I used most of it fresh, but there's a little bit of this magic lime green, and I think, no, that's all magic lime green up there. Back to the status, there's lots of white, purple, there's the bright yellow that I don't love in bouquets that much. It does seem to sell well. More larkspur. Oh, this is a really nice light lavender color. I think I only had one of those plants, so it must have come from a mix. I think I had giant imperial mix and giant imperial white. There's a lot more. Oh, there's all the feverfew. That is all magic lime green feverfew. The lighting isn't great in here. There's only one overhead light, so apologies for that. A little bit more larkspur and then some cress. Now this cress I'm pretty sure is penny cress, and then I had emerald beads, which is what we harvested today. And actually, let's go do a comparison. Here is what I'm pretty sure is penny cress. And this, I think, is emerald beads. Look how much smaller those little round, this would be the seed pods. Look at how much smaller they are here versus the penny cress. I think I like this much, much better. So it did turn a little bit yellow as it dried. I was wondering if it would keep its nice green color. It didn't. Let's hang that back up. There. So now there are a couple of straw flowers here. This might have been the first one, which is why I hung it with the cress. But here are some bigger bunches. Now I believe this variety is Fireball Red, and it keeps its color beautifully. So these dry really nicely. And they do feel a little bit like straw, which is why they're called straw flowers. And there is some of that amobium that we cut today. And then I have a ton of eryngium. So I didn't hang this due to lack of space, but we're going to look at these things in the front in a minute. But behind that, there are a couple of giant bunches of eryngium, and even more, this is sea holly is the common name, by the way, even more on this lower shelf. That bag back there, I think, might be seed pods for something. Oh yeah, Chinese forget-me-not seeds. And then there is my elephant garlic. I sold most of my fresh lavender, but here's two nice bunches that I left to dry. I'm likely going to get a second smaller flush off those plants because I cut them so soon. So I'll likely have a bit more of that. Just a few straw flowers that I cut off the stem. Now a lot of these things here were brought down just a few days ago. So there's another bunch of amobium, a whole bunch of status. This is from the QIS apricot. I think these are Rebecca's. A few more. These were just brought down yesterday. So I have two more bunches of straw flowers and some asters. These were just left over from making bouquets a few days ago. So there are 3 asters here and a scabiosa. There is some sedum. This is chocolate mint, just starting to flower. It makes really nice purple little flower heads. So these are small bunches because they are just left over. And we have some Chabot carnations. These two varieties I'm loving this year. It is Chabot La France is the pink and Chabot Marie Chabot is the yellow. These small mixed bunches are just leftovers from when I'm making bouquets for the market. So there is the current status of my dried flowers, and next I have to find room for everything we cut today. So when you are drying flowers, there are a couple of things to keep in mind, and the first one is to keep them out of direct sunlight. That's important because direct sunlight can bleach out all the colors and make them look pretty dull. And especially for things like this status, this beautiful larkspur, the straw flowers, we don't want to dull those colors. The second thing is to keep an eye on the humidity. Now I have a dehumidifier right outside this door, and this door stays wide open during the summer. So that provides some airflow, and that also helps control the humidity. So keep them out of direct sunlight. Airflow and low humidity is a must. And temperature is not super important as long as it's not really, really hot or really, really cold. So with these Craspedia, I think that's about going to do it. I'm actually just going to lay these flat. There, perfect. And as for this giant mountainous pile of cress, I'm actually going to use this in the next couple of days, hopefully before it starts to get crispy. I want it soft like this. I didn't have any specific ideas for this cress, but I did think of something while I was outside cutting it. So I'm not going to share that yet in case it doesn't work. But I'll be trying that out in a couple of days, and if it works as well as I think it's going to, I'll definitely share that with you guys. So be sure to subscribe, and I'll share all that with you in the coming months. But for now, I'm going to say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.